Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, phone lines are open. You can call in to make your contributions, ask your questions, but remember you only have 60 seconds to every caller, and also remember to turn down the volume of your TV set while you're at it. Okay, my guest, or our guest for today is Stephen Adewale, who is a public affairs analyst and also former chairman of SDP in Ondo State. Great to have you on the show again.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, quite a number of stories, but let's see how we can manage the next 40 minutes. And we'll start with Daily Independent. In fact, all the headlines have the same story with regards to the budget and all that happened yesterday. Daily Independent puts it this way, says federal government to cut 2024 budget deficit to 3.88% of GDP. Now, the writer says 8.8 trillion naira borrowings, 298.49 billion privatization proceeds to fund the budget. Adult oil benchmark of $77, and then you have that's at 750 naira per dollar. Defense, education, security takes lion's share of 5.43 trillion naira allocation. But then on the flip side, here's the big story. It says Tinubu's 2024 budget deceitful, strangulating, hopeless, coming from the opposition party. And then they say it has no mechanism for economic recovery, especially being at 750 naira per dollar. That's suffocating. That's according to the People's Democratic Party. But then I like it to just unbundle them in one breath. Like different questions I'm going to ask you. Now we're talking about how when you go on and off social media, you have a lot of people criticizing the budget, saying that it does not actually meet the needs or the aspirations of the Nigerians, even though the Speaker of the House of Representatives said that that budget must definitely touch the hopeless and then every Nigerian. But to you, does it actually meet the needs of every Nigerian, even being at that pegging it at that 750 naira per dollar? And then would you agree to the PDP that says it is hopeless, it is strangulating, it is deceitful? What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me once again. And let me start with the press statement issued by the People's Democratic Party. I think we live in a country where both the oppressed and the oppressors are hypocrites. People's Democratic Party, if others are criticizing the budget, People's Democratic Party, they have more resources to criticize it with statistics, even with actions beyond rhetorics. Because at the National Assembly, we don't we have large numbers of them who are members of People's Democratic Party. And if you watch what happened yesterday, it was just praise singing of the.
Oh, so you agree to that?
So you agree to beginning to the very end. Both the members of the APC and the PDP and other political parties, virtually all of them were praising the president, and it's no longer, it has been the habit of the National Assembly since 1999. So for PDP to come out, one would have expected them to even come out with a better statistics than just to come out with this rhetoric. So we need to move beyond rhetorics. So now this national document has been presented, and this document has the tendency to make or mar the future of Nigeria. And the president tagged it the renewed hope budget. Now, if you now look at the budget, I'm not going to talk about, yes, there are a lot of, maybe there are a good number of positive steps that were taken, because this will be the first time in a long while where we have the president of the country presenting a budget in a charismatic way and in a very bold manner. For the past 8 years, we've not really had it that good. Then if you also look at the budget as well, there was a time that people were even arguing and people were criticizing the government, especially the government of Buhari, for funding, for using about 71% of our annual budget to service the debt. But if you look at the budget now, you realize that it's about 44% of that, about 41% of that budget that is going to use to service the debt. It means that at least you still have some amount of money, resources left to actually implement people-oriented and progressive programs. But even at that, that's even a red flag on its own, because if it actually says,
sorry, everybody, it actually says 45% debt service of 18.32 trillion naira.
Yes. So now, even if you look at that, it's even too much in the real sense of the word, because it's just a budget of a country is just just like an individual coming up with his personal budget. Let's use an individual, for example, that is maybe making 100 million naira. 100,000 naira in a month, and out of that 100,000 naira, probably after you must have paid your tax and all that, you only have 80,000 naira left. Now the 80,000 naira, so you now have to pay 45,000 naira as debt from that 80,000 naira. So how much are you going to have left to even pay now, to pay for your transportation and to do all that? So it means that you are never going to have savings. You continue to live from hand to mouth. So it shows that this budget itself is actually a red flag. So you don't even need PDP or any other person. But what we are saying is that we must criticize in a way that the government, those who are in power, will know that they are not actually doing things the right way. And every budget, especially since 1999 in the country, has always been an estimated budget, because we've always presenting our budget or making our plans based on borrowing or the money that we've not actually generated in the real sense of the word. Now, if you look at where the president said those revenues were going to be generated from, first they are looking at the crude oil, and the benchmark for crude oil, according to the budget, is 77 point something dollars. Now, presently, the international price is about $88. So you could rightly say that, okay, that probably that's actually a fair benchmark. But the truth is that if you look at if you sit down and study the oil market in the last 3 months, realize that is not even a wise projection, because we've been able to move in the last 6 months. We've been able to move from about $130 to $88. So what is now the assurance that in the next 1 month that we will not even go below that that amount? So it shows that at the end of the day,
that they are not projecting.
At the end of the day, we may end up borrowing more than we claim that we are going to borrow now, because in a situation where you are unable to generate enough revenue from crude oil, which you've already benchmarked in your budget. So for you to be able to make up, then you have to now resort to borrowing. Then another thing is, if you look at the exchange rate, now that budget or the benchmark was made based on the unified exchange rate, which is $750. But we know that as of today, 750 naira per dollar. But we know that presently we don't even have that, and there is no guarantee that even in the next few months that we're even going to get to that. We're even going to get to that level. So it's more or less like they present a budget that is more or less like, just as I said, hope, but not based on statistics or not based on verified things that we can actually see and say that this is the reason why this budget is actually presented. So there are a lot of red flags on that budget. So, but we can only hope. And another thing is that look at the amount of money, the debt. For example, we are going to borrow about 8 trillion naira, while we are going to service debt with about 7 trillion naira. And if you look at the expenses of government, nothing has been done to even reduce the expenses of the government. And this is what we keep saying, that if you want to attain that unified exchange rate, we have to reduce the rate at which we involve in it, and we buy things in dollars. But the government continue to even invest heavily in the procurement of foreign goods. So definitely it means that it's not really going to have any positive effect on the country. Even the
amount they're even calling on the budget is even in dollars.
Yes, it's about $33 billion. The budget itself is about $33 billion, which in Nigeria currency is about 27 trillion naira. And which means that if anything happens at the international market, the amount is even likely to increase beyond what we have presently.
Okay, so now let me ask you, because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came out to say that he inherited an empty treasury. Now, since before yesterday that he passed that budget, I'm wondering, what exactly have they been spending all the while since he inherited something empty?
You know, the budget of the country. That's why this document, the enthusiasm that the presentation of the budget used to generate in the past, the enthusiasm is no longer there. Many people don't even believe that the people who are submitting this document, that they even know what they are doing in the real sense of the word, because the president made it clear yesterday that he would have loved the Appropriation Act of 2024 to come into effect from January 1st, 2024. So now if you now want to, if you want to achieve that, it means the National Assembly only have between now and December, about December 15 for them to do that. And don't forget, the National Assembly members are the people who are fond of going on spending more time on recess than they spend at the plenary. So it's really so there is nothing they are really going to do. So which means that is, like I said, that's another even red flag, because by the time this is becoming an act by 2024, so nobody will be able to beat his or her chest that the members of the National Assembly had done justice in scrutinizing this document. So that's why you continue to see government year in year out coming out to say that they met empty treasury.
Let's quickly take this call. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Tell us your name or where you're calling us from.
Collins from Otukpo State.
Collins from Otukpo Benue State. It's great to hear from you. Go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Yeah. I want to first of all talk about the budget that was presented before the House of Assembly yesterday.
Okay, please do.
There are so many people talking about how the budget was presented. There is no doubt nobody was complaining of anything. You see, the way we are going now, things are not going right. At least if a budget is presented. Moreover, if you look at the House now, all the whole senators, the House of Rep is almost APC. So because there are guys in the House, who we doubt? Who are you to dare doubt? Now if there is no opposition, I believe me to God who made me, the government of the day will not work out. If there is nobody to complain that this thing you are doing is not right, nobody, nothing will be good that will come out. Okay, now, everything they are talking about, what is the essence? Are we using dollars in Nigeria? Everything now is dollar. That is why the hodling of dollar was so much that at a certain time there is no dollar in the market again. Look, things are not going right. There are so many things that I don't know whether we still have the military or the paramilitary again. Even though it's not their time, at least they are being complained now.
All right.
The money added to workers now is only in the federal. The state, there is nothing there, and you can't dare complain. Where are we heading to?
Thank you so much, Collins, for that contribution. Thank you for calling. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How was your night?
Fine, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you have to quickly go to the budget you are talking of. Only one line. Okay. You see, the budget, it was looking as if the president was in a hurry to travel out. The budget does not signify, in my own opinion, no breakdown of the budget. So how do you really understand what is going on in the budget? The budget was just presented, fine, it was presented, no breakdown. Then let me quickly go to Robert Skills, Finance Director in Boulevard in Ogun State. Okay. You see, crime and criminalities have become an order of the day in this country. And the moment we fight it, the better. If we don't fight it on time, I am telling you to consume all of us. And it will be very difficult for us even to be traveling. Now that it's even happening to a high-class government official. Then let me go to Supreme Court, back CBA on all notes. You see, the actual facts have not been told to Nigerians. What is happening is that they should tell us even the amount that they use in printing those money. Up till now, they have not told us the amount that was used in printing those money. And they are talking about the new Naira and the old Naira going side by side. You see, it's unfortunate. When we don't get to the deep root of what is happening to our monetary policy, that is to say, we are having a lot of problems.
All right.
Then let me quickly go to court. Court asked Minister of Humanitarian Affairs to explain how to spend 538.8 trillion naira. You see, my sisters over there, corruption and mismanagement of resources have cast a serious doubt on the ability of Nigerian state to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. We are all witnesses that our children were at home. And this, they said, look at the money that they said they spent. Let that come account for the money. Unfortunately, Bola Tinubu is also doing the same line. You see, all this cash transfer or whatever it is real corruption. It's not cash, it's corruption transfer. It's not cash transfer. Real corruption transfer. And the earlier we look into it, the better. We saw a minister of aviation who painted a plane, and he's still working freely on the main road. So corruption has become our lifestyle, very endemic. How do we progress in this country?
Thank you so much, Faro.
God bless our country, Nigeria. God bless you.
God bless you too.
All right,
so
before I bother in, you said something about if we're not able to meet up to the production of the oil barrel that we're actually going to give out. But then at the end of the day, it's written here that 45% of our expected revenue will be spent on debt servicing. Don't you think this is actually is a huge blow? It's going to be a huge blow, or rather it's still going to affect the economy of Nigeria, given that, 45% is a lot.
Well, I agree with you. But, in the international system, it's just like an individual. If you borrow money, so you have to be financially responsible. So you must be able to pay back the money. So, and all this loan being given to Nigeria, so they always have documents. We have a limited number of time to pay them back. So, and those lenders, so they are aware of the resources that we have, and even some of these resources we are not even paying them in cash. We are paying them through the production of our crude oil. And that's why when the president came out to say that he inherited empty treasury from former president Muhammadu Buhari, one of the things that they were not telling us was that for about 3 good years, about 70% of the crude oil that we produce in the country on a daily basis, we are not getting any money from it. So because we've already, the former president had already loaned more than enough money, and the lenders, the only way for them to get their money was through the production of crude oil. So these are the things that is actually affecting us, and over time, especially in the last 16 years, it was already clear that it's already clear that in this country that we don't really have any money in the savings for us to say, okay, we want to budget. In a country like Singapore, for example, every country, especially developing countries, they have this, they usually present this annual budget. But in a country like Singapore, about 65% of what Singapore used to fund that budget is already in its savings. So which means that they don't have to go through the kind of financial stress that we go through in our country. And don't even forget that this month, because one of our callers mentioned the members of the lack of responsibility on the part of the members of the National Assembly, or especially the opposition. I don't want to believe that it's as a result of APC taking over our political space, because at the National Assembly, for example, we still have members of the People's Democratic Party, we have members of Labour Party, we have members of Social Democratic Party, and we even have members of New Nigerian people, NNPP. So we have those members there. So it's not just about the fact that probably the country do not have opposition members. We actually have them even at the National Assembly. But the problem is that even if you go and look at the actions of that assembly, their actions, their excesses are not even allowing our budget to perform as expected. Look at education, for example. Just one example. Look at education. It will appear as if one of the focus of the government is on education, because government is budgeting about nearly 8% of the total budget to education, which actually happens to be one of the largest, aside from defense and health. Now, if you now want to look at education, between May 29 and till date, 32 bills had been passed at the had been presented by the members of the National Assembly, either at the Senate or at the Federal House of Representatives. And what were those bills focusing on? They were focusing on establishing schools, either universities or polytechnics or colleges of education. Now, if you look at the numbers, it will appear as if we don't even have these schools available in the country. But now we even have more than enough, because according to the National University Commission, we have 52 federal universities, we have 63 state universities, and we have 147 private universities. And even if you go and look at the statistics of the National Board of Technical Education, we have 40 federal polytechnics, 46 state polytechnics, and 70 private polytechnics. The same thing with colleges of College of Health. We have both federal and state. We have about 70, while we have 19 private. Now we have more than enough. Now at the end of the day, by the time they succeed in passing in establishing new institutions, so this money will not even be enough for them to even pay the salary of the people there. So you now end up having much room institutions. So there are activities in order for them to please their constituencies, and for their inability to even think out of the box is even affecting our budget and the performance of the budget. All right,
before we let this topic, okay, I will have quite a very short time, but before we let this particular headline go, now I'll ask you two questions, and I'd like you to quickly take them in one breath, in 1 minute, if you can help us, because you talked about since 1999, the members of the National Assembly, they've always been like, there's always this showmanship when the president is coming to present the budget. But then, would you actually say, first is, this current National Assembly, when they came in, they said they were not going to be the rubber stamp that we always called the other assembly. But then some people said definitely it's going to happen that same way. Now we are expecting them to give their own verdict in the next few days. In fact, they will start today, then they'll go on recess, and then come back to give their own verdict before we go straight to next year, and then the budget will be passed. Do you actually see the outcome of it? Is it going to be, oh yes, member, let's go with it? That's one on the side. And then secondly, most people will remind you of how much the 8th Assembly, they were always under the neck of the executive. Do you see that happening in this regard?
Well, I don't see that happening with this set of people we have at the National Assembly, because like if you look at even how the presiding officers emerged, you realize that the executive played major role in the emergence of those presiding officers. And if you look at the steps, the steps and even the pronouncements of the members of the assembly since May 29, there is nothing there is no indication that they're actually going to do things differently from those the way those who served during the Buhari era did. So I don't really think they are going to do anything different. Like I said earlier, if a president is presenting a budget at the tail end of November, and he wants the budget to come into effect from January 1st, and one would have expected a reasonable member of National Assembly to speak up and say, no, this thing is not going to be realistic, because the budget, there are some of the things contained in that budget that you can't even blame the president for. For example, president is not there, it's not present in some of these agencies. So if an agency, for example, presents a budget, so president will only approve. President will not know whether that budget, what they wanted to use that money for has already been budgeted for in the previous exactly in the previous budget. So it is the members of the National Assembly who are constitutionally responsible to play oversight roles on those agencies that will sit down and come up and say, no, this budget has been padded in this area, that these things were not supposed to be there, but they are not making any move to show that they're actually going to do that. And 1 month is not even going to be enough for you to achieve that. Right. This our habit of saying every appropriation must come into effect, appropriation act must come into effect in January 1st. It's not actually the best. Even if it is in April 2024, even if it comes to effect, the most important thing about budget is the performance at the end of the day. So hopefully this is going to be different, because since 1999, according to the statistics, the best we've ever had was about 8% budget performance, which is abysmally low. So it shows that if they are now continuing the same trend that had been there in the past, so I don't really see any the way this present budget is going to perform better than the previous ones.
Okay, not to overflog this matter. Something caught my attention with Nigerian Tribune. Is said Tinubu has said economy will grow above global forecast in 2024. Do you agree with that?
Well, that, like I said, this will not be the first time that form of rhetoric will be made. And if you look at, to still take us back to that budget, because what the president is trying to say is that he knows that some of the beautiful things stated in that budget, that they are not actually realistic in the real sense of the word. It's just like somebody wants to build maybe a duplex, and the person only have about 500,000 naira, and the person is saying that there is going to be a miracle in the next 2 months that will bring us that will give me the money to achieve that. So we all know that this thing is not going to be realistic, and it also shows that even the leaders we have, that they are not even prepared for the office. If you look at the campaign manifesto of the president himself, the projected growth rate was pegged at 10%. In the campaign manifesto.
He said that he didn't know what he was going to meet.
Exactly. Now if you now look at the projected growth rate in the budget as of yesterday, it was 3.7. It means that now the reality has dawned on them. So they've come to realize that, look, all those beautiful things we put there, that it's not actually practicable in the real sense of the word. Even that 3.7 is even ambitious. It's even over ambitious, because even the IMF is saying that, look, that the projected growth rate for Nigeria in the next 5 years is likely to be between 2.7 and 2.9. So it means that even that 3.7 is even over ambitious already. So I don't really believe, I'm sure President himself and even his handlers do not even believe in that kind of statement. Okay,
let's move straight to other stories this morning. Says in New Telegraph, you have going straight to Ondo State. There you have Ayedatiwa to preside over ESCO meeting, and then the writer says Tinubu Assembly violate constitution on resignation. I wonder what that means. I would like you to take that story. And then secondly, we have a story on bank recapitalization. I'm trying to find out where I saw it, but then we'd like to get your thoughts with regards to that new policy from the CBN. How far will it actually meet the needs and the aspirations of Nigerians, or would it even stifle the economy further?
Well, what is happening in those states is quite unfortunate. Obviously, we've never had this. I would add it, this was in Ondo State. About 2 weeks ago, when some elders, led by Chief Fashion, wrote a letter to President Tinubu to intervene, people like us at that time were arguing that, look, that is not just about intervention, because in an environment where democracy works, you don't even need the intervention of a president, because you just have to follow the constitution to the letter. The constitution is clear. If the governor is not on seat, then power should be delegated. It should be delegated to the deputy. So it's not saying that power should be delegated to the son of the governor or to the wife of the governor, to some set of cabals who are loyal to the governor. So now eventually they came to Abuja, but the resolution that they brought from Abuja even appeared to be worse than what was even in existence before they came to Abuja. Because now I've never heard that before, where a president of a country will ask the deputy governor to submit an unsigned or an undated resignation letter. So then, aside from that, the resolution was ambiguous. You are saying that, okay, first you are saying that the deputy governor remains the deputy governor. Then you are saying that the state executive council should not be dissolved, and you actually want things to move forward. And you are saying that the deputy governor should not be declared as the acting governor, so that the status quo should remain. What it means that the status quo, what that means is that whatever has been happening before should continue to happen, because it means that those commissioners who are loyal to the governor, who are not on the same side of the table with the deputy governor, will continue to remain loyal to the person that they are loyal to. Like, look at what happened just yesterday, 2 days ago. The House of Assembly members announced that Governor Akeredolu sent them the names of the new caretaker chairman and a new caretaker chairman, and they announced the names without the input of the deputy governor. So it's not really, so it's quite unfortunate what is going on, but hopefully we'll get to that point where our constitution, where we'll continue, we'll start abiding by the constitution, because whatever is written in the constitution presently is different from how from the way our politicians behave. So then on the issue of the recapitalization, I think if you look at when the policy started, when the policy was introduced by Governor Soludo, that's the CBN governor at the time. You know, the reason why that was introduced was as a result of the financial recklessness of our banking CEOs. You know, at that time, some banks like Oceanic banks that eventually went under with a series of atrocities, and immediately these banks went under. Then all the people patronized the bank lost their money. So that was why Soludo came up and said, look, that now there should be this certain amount of money, which is about 25 billion naira at the time, for as recapitalization, so that even if a bank goes under, then definitely they will use that money to pay the people who patronize the bank. So if they are coming up with this policy, I think it's actually for the best. But the problem is that now you realize that at the end of the day, the people who will be able to involve in this kind of project, they are also the same people who are loyal to the government, because some of these things, the argument against it over time is that, or criticism is that it's not, they don't make it open to anybody. You cannot just come up to them and say, I want to be involved, I want to get involved in or invest in a banking system. So it's only meant for some privileged set of people. But we can only hope that they will learn from the mistakes of the past, and definitely, but this policy is actually a good one. At least it will guarantee that whatever we save in the bank, that is because
I remember that those days when people saved money in the banks, in the days of the Savannah banks, and how people lost their money when those banks were liquidated. Let's take our last story. It says provide 535.8 million school feeding details. Court orders minister. I'm sure they're talking about the former minister, looking at all that spending on the homegrown school feeding program, the farmer money, the trader money, the market money, all those monies that were not even accounted for. Now the court is dragging that minister. Do you actually see this having any headway? Because I remember a few days ago, we also saw a particular report from a formal department or ministry rather, where the head took quite a number. I can't remember the amount of money, but then took over 35 official vehicles, and then you just begin to wonder. So we have all this money, and yet we keep borrowing. So do you see this money being returned back? Because I remember reading something yesterday, and someone said, if you think that you've seen the worst of female ministers siphoning money, remember what happened with the former petroleum minister, that's Decietful. Let's see how far do you think this will go?
Well, personally, I don't. When it comes to the corruption allegations or corruption cases in Nigeria, personally, I don't really have hope in our judiciary based on the past experiences. So we know that something like this, we can only so it's quite easy to hear the news now. Come back again in the next 1 or 2 months, you will not yes, we would have moved to something else. So, and it's not actually supposed to be so, because if you want to create a society where people will not get involved in corrupt activities, you need to be able to teach them a lesson, to show those who are coming that look, if you actually make these mistakes, if you commit this error, this is what is going to happen. But in a country where we continue to have leaders who believe that as long as you are on the same side of the political table with me, that there is not going to be any problem, then you are likely to continue to have this. But in every country, actually, we have negotiations like this, whereby in many countries today, a lot of people don't go to jail for something like this. What they do is that they find a way to collect all the money back from them. So with that, it saves the country a lot of resources. But the truth is that prevention is still better than cure, because the money is possible for somebody to steal 10 naira, and you now spend 100 million naira, I mean 1 million naira investigating and even punishing and discipline the person. So we need to find there must be a preventive measure.
So sorry, I have to put in there. So does it actually mean that you're referring to this story? Daily Independent says alleged 1.6 billion naira fraud 7 days after 300 million naira bail. Emefiele still in prison. Tied to this story you talk about.
Yeah, but even the 300 million naira, it was, according to them, it was unable to pay the money. I think that's the reason why it was there. But that's not even the bail. I'm not even talking about the fine from the court. I'm talking of the negotiations going that will take place between the government officials and the person that was being alleged to have involved in corruption activities. So basically, that's what I'm talking about. But in our everything still boils down to the way we even handle and manage our even budget. Look at this school feeding, for example. It was included in our budget. And look at the President Tinubu's budget. Realize that it focused on 3 major areas: security, job creation, and poverty alleviation. So now, if you are going to create job, so it has to be clearly stated. So how are we going to create this job? If you are going to alleviate poverty, what is the guarantee that it's not going to be like the same school feeding and the sharing of money to market to trader people, I mean to market men and the farmers? So we need to come up with something practicable, something realistic that will not continue to encourage corruption.
Stephen Adewale, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having this talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me.